You guys. Yeah, let's see what happens here. So, moving on to our first article of the day. Christian Horner says that Toto Wolff showed a total lack of understanding in comments about Max Verstappen. Toto Wolff hinted Red Bull have made a car to suit Max Verstappen, which Christian Horner has responded to. Verstappen is on a record-winning streak of 10 races after victory at Monza. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner says that his Mercedes counterpart Toto Wolff showed a total lack of understanding of car development in recent comments made about the RB19. Asked about the performance margin between World Championship leader Max Verstappen and his teammate Sergio Perez, Wolff questioned whether the Dutchman's ability to create a car around himself that is just very tricky to control but very fast if you can was the explanation. Verstappen, who claimed a 10th successive victory in Monza on Sunday to move 145 points clear of Perez at the top of the World Championship, dismissed Wolff's comments, insisting that it's not like that. Well, I think I completely agree with Max, Horner said in Italy. It shows a total lack of understanding of how a race car and team develop. If Toto thinks that we're developing a car around a single driver, you develop a car to be as quick as you can, and sometimes quick cars are difficult cars. That's what's historically been the case. I think that drivers adapt. The good drivers that you see in wet conditions, mixed conditions, varied conditions, the elite, they adapt quickly. And I think that's one of Max Verstappen's key skill sets. It's his ability to adapt to the feeling and the grip levels that the car gives him. But there's certainly no direction to say, oh, we tailor something to suit one specific driver. We're just trying to design and build the fastest car that we can. That our tools, our simulations, our wind tunnels provide us with that direction. Despite Mercedes having been no match for Red Bull on the track since Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton fiercely fought for the 2021 title, tensions between the rivals have been building in recent weeks. Hamilton said of the Italian Grand Prix that he was no more impressed by Verstappen's success than that of previous world champions, and also questioned the pedigree of the teammates the Dutchman has had throughout his racing career. The comment prompted Verstappen to question whether Hamilton is a little bit jealous of his success, with the Dutchman firmly on course to claim a third driver's title at the end of the season. Reacting to the recent exchanges, Wolff played down the suggestion that there's any animosity between the drivers and teams, suggesting it is part of the fun. First of all, it's obvious that the drivers like to poke each other a little bit, Wolff said. But then you can say that Lewis has raced 3 world championships. He raced Jenson Button, Fernando Alonso, and Nico Rosberg. So, I mean, it's been a interesting debate between these two teams, and interesting to see that they are fighting with each other a little bit now. I mean, we've seen it in the past with the likes of Christian Horner fighting with Toto Wolff. Now it's the other way around, because Christian Horner was fighting in the past because Mercedes were so dominant. Now it's Toto Wolff coming back at Red Bull because they're dominant. They're in their dominant season. But it's what happens in Formula One. We go through these dominant periods from teams, and it's Red Bull's turn at the moment. Just finishing up from this article here, the final comment here saying, but I don't want to in any way diminish anyone's performance because Max in the car is outstanding. So yeah, it's all just part of the fun, said Toto Wolff. Toto Wolff is not scared of taking a dig at people at all here. Mark there in the comment section saying hello and saying Toto cannot stop crying at the moment. I mean, it's expected. You're a team boss. You don't want your team to be pretty much relegated to the midfield, and that's kind of where Mercedes have been, midfield, upper midfield. Yeah, nothing too incredible. Moving on though to Mercedes expecting a wild Formula 1 fluctuation to feature in the Singapore Grand Prix. George Russell was 5th and Lewis Hamilton 6th in the Italian Grand Prix as Mercedes struggled to keep up with the Red Bull pace. Mercedes expects though that the form may fluctuate between Formula 1 teams in the Singapore Grand Prix as it struggled at Monza last time out. Behind runaway championship leaders Red Bull, Mercedes has locked in a battle with Aston Martin, Ferrari and McLaren, with each team providing the closest opposition to Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez on any given weekend. Mercedes has tended to run stronger on high downforce circuits, such as Barcelona, where Lewis Hamilton and George Russell were second and third, the team's best results this season. In the Italian Grand Prix though, Russell took a comfortable fifth, while Lewis Hamilton battled with the McLaren drivers of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, as well as Williams driver Alexander Albon, wait for that to stop, eventually coming home in 5th place, while Ferrari enjoyed its strongest weekend of the year. Formula 1 now embarks on the flyaway races to end off the season, with Mercedes trackside engineer director Andrew Shovlin believing that the Singapore Grand Prix will continue the trend. Shovlin has given his expectations, saying it seems that when we go to low downforce circuits, Ferrari get more competitive. In Monza, it looked like they had 1.5 to 2.5 tenths on performance on us. There's a reason to think that the car will be better, and that is because Singapore is a maximum downforce circuit. Our performance at the high downforce circuits like Barcelona, Budapest and even Zandvoort, the car was working well, and we've had pretty strong performances. We're hoping to be able to be a bit quicker there and get back to a position where we can fight for podiums. The track though does throw up some pretty unique challenges, and we've also got some layout changes for this year. There's a sequence of 4 corners near the end of the lap that had been removed, where the track used to go underneath a grandstand through a tunnel. That's now gone, so we've got a longer straight which will change a little bit how the tyres are working. There's a little bit less energy there, but it's also an abrasive tarmac. We've got the softest 3 compounds of the season, so it's a pretty tough race on the tyres as well, and it's a very bumpy street circuit. There's a bit less energy, but added to that, the race is run at night. There are plenty of challenges for us to try and tackle them, but we are going there optimistic for a strong performance. Glad to hear though that the Mercedes do feel that they are going to be able to be competitive in Singapore. We want to see them fighting for podiums yet again. They've been slowly upping their performance over the past few race weekends. I mean, they had the opportunity in Zandvoort, unfortunately threw it away a little bit with strategic decisions. Obviously, last weekend out, as Shovlin says, their car isn't necessarily suited to a low downforce track like Monza, so we didn't expect them to do all too well there, and they didn't do all too well, unfortunately, but hopefully we will see them having a bit of a resurgence in their performance out in Singapore. Let's get a poll up for all of you guys watching alongside with us. Do you think that Mercedes, or that's a Q&A, let's not do a Q&A, let's do a poll. Do you think that Mercedes will be back on form in Singapore? That is now up for all of you. So, moving on to our next article, away from Mercedes and onto Red Bull's Sergio Perez, who is going to celebrate a landmark Grand Prix with a special helmet in Singapore. Sergio Perez has revealed a special helmet design that he will use during his 250th Grand Prix in Singapore. The Red Bull driver is to become just the 11th driver in the history of the World Championship to clock up 250 starts in what will be his 254th entry. Perez has failed to start 3 times in his Formula 1 career, at the 2011 Monaco Grand Prix, 2014 Malaysian Grand Prix, 2020 British Grand Prix, after a crash, power unit issue and testing positive for COVID-19 respectively. The Mexican is the defending race winner in Singapore, having become the first non-world championship to win the event when it returned to the calendar in 2022, following a 3-year hiatus. Perez is the second driver from the Americas to reach the 250 mark after the Brazilian Rubens Barrichello, who ended with 323 starts. Very exciting to see that we do have Sergio Perez doing his 250th Grand Prix start this race weekend. Hopefully he is able to have a good weekend. Hopefully he's going to be able to get onto the podiums, maybe challenge for a win. Yeah, I'd like to see Sergio Perez taking a win at least 1 or 2 more times this Grand Prix season. He's had a great season, and I do think that he deserves to get a little bit higher up on the podium. It is difficult, of course, when you have a teammate like Max Verstappen, who is just absolutely dominant in his form right now. We'll have to wait and see, though, what Sergio Perez is able to do. Hopefully he can, as I said, get onto that top step once again of the podium in Singapore to defend from his last year winning out there. Moving on, though, to another article speaking about Red Bull. It has been revealed that Red Bull's customer team plans could rival Mercedes. Christian Horner has said that Red Bull powertrains will be able, Christian Horner said that Red Bull powertrains will be capable of supplying 4 teams, but insists that they want to walk before they can run. Red Bull's engine department has been in the works since early 2021, when following Honda's decision to pull out from the sport, the Milton Keynes team decided to take everything in-house. While the division still receives support from the Japanese supplier, from 2026, Red Bull is going independent and has already begun working on their new base. Currently, there are 4 engine suppliers in the sport, supplying all 10 teams, but that figure will increase by 2 come 2026, when both Audi and Honda, who reversed their withdrawal to link up with Aston Martin, will join the list of suppliers. As always, there are a number of customer teams on the grid who all want to have the best power unit on offer, and much interest will be paid to Red Bull's new venture considering how well the team is currently performing. Already McLaren had made some inquiries, with CEO Zak Brown visiting Red Bull's HQ, but Horner has insisted that their plan is to supply just 2 teams, Red Bull and AlphaTauri, for now. He was quoted as saying, "I think we want to walk before we can run," Horner exclusively told PlanetF1.com. "I think servicing the 2 teams under the common ownership makes perfect sense for now. We are an independent engine manufacturer. We have a great relationship with Ford, which is working very well, but essentially we're an independent engine manufacturer, and that has longer-term strengths and advantages as well. If in the future we're attractive to customers, that's something we'd certainly be open to supply more teams in the future. But I think, as I say, we want to establish ourselves first and earn our stripes." Currently, it is Mercedes who supply the most teams, with Aston Martin, McLaren and Williams being their customers, as well as their own team taking power units from the Brexworth operation. That comes with significant benefits, most notably the financial element. And Horner revealed that the power unit division has been designed to accommodate 4 teams in the future. "We've geared up our facility for circa 4 teams, so that's something we will be capable of doing longer term," Horner said of the future potential. "But I think our focus is very much on first establishing ourselves and getting a group of people to be integrated with the chassis team. To work as one collective unit. It's an enormous undertaking, but we're on that journey and we're making reasonable progress." Very exciting to see that progress is being made by the Red Bull team and the Red Bull Power Unit division. It's a massive undertaking by Red Bull. Of course, they have partnered up with Ford to join them in that Power Unit division to help them with their engine energy recovery unit. I think that is what Ford is joining them with to help them with their battery tech. That is mostly what Ford is joining for. They're not really helping too much with the actual engine side of things, but more to help with their ERS and the engine, their battery systems. So very interesting to see there. Hopefully we do get a few more customer teams coming to Red Bull. We've already seen the likes of, as the article said, McLaren possibly interested in the future, but as well there's been a meeting between McLaren CEO Zak Brown as well as Adrian Newey and the Ford CEO. So very, very likely that we could get McLaren moving over to a Red Bull powertrain in the future. I mean, imagine McLaren Red Bull. That will be very, very interesting. Moving on, though, to our next article. Former Formula One champion claims that Charles Leclerc is under more pressure than Ferrari teammate Carlos Sainz right now. Formula One legend Emerson Fittipaldi has said that Charles Leclerc's seat at Ferrari is less secure than Carlos Sainz Jr.'s. Sainz put in a brilliant performance at the Italian Grand Prix to claim pole position over Max Verstappen, before converting it into a third-place finish on race day, fending off Leclerc to secure that final podium position. It was the Spaniard's first podium of the season compared to Leclerc's 3, but his consistent performances over the course of the season sees him ahead of the Monegasque driver in the Drivers' Championship. The team has struggled overall in 2023, regressing in performance from challenges for race victories in 2022, to fighting for top 5 positions with a host of other teams this year. In amongst that, however, Sainz has slowly but surely been putting in some very consistent performances, finishing inside the top 6 in 9 of the 14 races so far, whilst Leclerc has only managed it 6 times. In my opinion, Leclerc is under more pressure than Sainz, two-time world champion Fittipaldi told Toto Sport. The Monegasque wants to achieve results that are not arriving, while the Spaniard seems to be more consistent in the race. While both drivers' short-term future at Ferrari is certain, the team may look at other options if they produce a better car next season that isn't being converted into consistent podium finishes. The pressure on a Ferrari driver is enormous though, particularly at Monza, and both were lucky to produce one of the best performances of the season in front of their home crowd, the Tifosi, to keep them hopeful that the team can turn it around next season. It is unlikely though that they will be able to challenge Red Bull and Max Verstappen for race wins between now and the end of this season, but their driver lineup is still one that is the envy of other teams. Fittipaldi admits it is tough for Ferrari drivers, with the pressure being more than at any other team. A certain pressure can be created in the team, and on a mental level it can make things more complicated for Leclerc. He must act with more calm so he will make fewer mistakes, said Fittipaldi. Well, it's been a very difficult season for Charles Leclerc off the back of last season where he was the main title contender with Max Verstappen. They lost the momentum though halfway through that season. I think it was after that crash in France at I just gone blank on the name of that circuit at Paul Ricard. Yeah, I mean it's very difficult for the Ferrari drivers. I mean they have so much pressure under them, not only by Ferrari fans, but I mean Italy as a whole looks to Ferrari as, I mean, they are just Italy's pride and joy, and there's just so much pressure on Ferrari, not only the company but also their drivers and team members and everyone within the Ferrari team. There's a lot of pressure on them to perform because Italy really does look up to Ferrari, and they get a lot of backlash if they do not perform correctly. Yeah, difficult for Ferrari and for Charles Leclerc. Hopefully he will be able to return to his former form. But Carlos Sainz, he's doing really well at the moment in the team. Lots of speculation as to where his future lies, whether it will remain at Ferrari or whether he will move on to Audi, who is coming into the sport in 2026. Our next article, though, is speaking a little bit about Alex Palou. Alex Palou is currently in IndyCar. He was touted to make a move into Formula One, but those dreams and opportunities have fallen away now, with him refusing not refusing, but he did sign to McLaren and now has gone back on his word and has gone back to Chip Ganassi Racing in IndyCar. So, Alex Palou says his future remains in the IndyCar series and admits his chances of racing in Formula One are now really, really small after turning his back on McLaren. Chip Ganassi Racing's Palou, who has won his second IndyCar title for the team at Portland last weekend, had been driving and testing previous cars and machinery as a reserve driver for McLaren's Formula One team ahead of his expected switch to Arrow McLaren's IndyCar squad next year. This was understood to be part of an evaluation phase of his potential to become part of McLaren's Formula One driver lineup in the future. But his decision at the start of August to perform a U-turn on that McLaren move to stay with Ganassi has halted his Formula One ambitions. Palou spoke to a select group of media, including Motorsport.com, at Pebble Beach in California on Wednesday. He explained how his attitude towards Formula One has shifted in recent years, given his age and the lack of a cast-iron guarantee of a racing future there. There's no hiding it. Like, if you look at my interviews until 21, I was saying that I was not focused on Formula One at all, he said. And that was totally true, but things have changed. When I won the championship just because I was 24, Uh, Things changed when I won the championship just because I was 24. I just won my first big championship, and I was like, what if I try something? It can go sideways, but then I come back to IndyCar, and I'm 27, and I'm still super young, and I can do it for like 15 or 10 years. So then it changed. The door opened a little bit with McLaren. It was amazing. I got to test the Formula One cars at the Circuit of the Americas last year, which was amazing. The opportunity was great, but there was nothing else there saying, oh, you will have a car. At the same time, if I was 20 maybe, I would have waited. But I'm not 20, I'm 26. And on that side, I don't know if there's been anybody aged 30 getting into Formula One as a rookie. After claiming the title in Portland on Sunday, when asked by Motorsport.com if he still harbors thoughts of switching to Formula One at some point, Palou replied, no. I said it many times that it was not my main focus. Then, when an opportunity came, I had to go for it. I felt, at the same time, I know I'm not 21 or 19, I'm already 26, which is good. I'm not saying I'm old, but I mean, it's not that I'm super young. So next year I'll be 27. If one opportunity comes in the future, which is like really, really small chances, I'll think about it for sure, 100%. But I'm happy, as long as I can keep challenging and winning championships and races or battling for championships, I think I'll have a great career. Palou has been instructed by his lawyers not to comment on any contractual matters, as McLaren has taken legal action against him through the UK High Court. When asked if he was surprised by McLaren's course of action, he replies, no, I was expecting it. I mean, maybe not the way of like doing stuff, but yeah, I was expecting it sooner rather than later, that there was going to be some movement for sure. Of course, that is triggered by the fact that he was signed to McLaren for, I think, next season, and then he did make that U-turn and went back to Chip Ganassi Racing. He was under contract for McLaren Arrows Racing next season, and as I said, he made that U-turn. So McLaren may be due some compensation for him making that U-turn. Yeah, very, very interesting to see from Alex Palou making that massive U-turn and turning his back on Formula One for the future. On to our final article, less of an article, more of a bit of power rankings from all of the Formula One drivers. So, this is the first time I've done this, but let's have a look at the Formula One drivers' power rankings. Two drivers are tied at the top as the scores come in from the Italian Grand Prix. For the, it was a track... Let me just take a sip of water. It was a crackerjack of an Italian Grand Prix weekend at Monza. As while Max Verstappen made history, Ferrari also impressed in front of the Tifosi. But who impressed our judges the most this weekend? So, just a little bit of information about this power rankings from Formula One. The 5-judge panel assesses each driver after every Grand Prix and gives them a score out of 10 according to their performance across the weekend, taking machinery out of the equation. The expert scores are then averaged out to produce a race score, with those scores then tallied up across the season on our overall power rankings leaderboard. So, currently top of those leaderboards is Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen, currently both with a 9.4 score. Max Verstappen, of course, finishing the race in first, and Carlos Sainz finishing the race in third. Frederic Vasseur called the Italian Grand Prix weekend Ferrari's best of the season, and from a personal perspective, Carlos Sainz might say it was his best weekend as well. The Spaniard was in a scintillating form from the minute the lights went green in FP1. But the most impressive part of his weekend was the outstanding lap to take pole, and while he could not keep the Red Bulls behind him on Sunday, with his incredible defensive skills, many will remember the roar of the Tifosi when the Spaniard crossed the line. So, for that, Carlos Sainz received a score of 9.4, with Max Verstappen also receiving a score of 9.4 after a record 10 wins in a row. It is an insane achievement, and praise must be given to Verstappen. Red Bull has built a great car, and Verstappen continues to put it to good use by not putting a foot wrong, and this weekend was the perfect example of that. TC in the comment section saying Red Bull can afford to hire all the best engine designers to join them. I completely agree with you, TC. Hopefully they will get a really powerful engine department, or hopefully not for other teams, but we'll have to wait and see what is going to happen in terms of those Red Bull powertrains in the future. Carrying on though with these power rankings, Max Verstappen narrowly lost out on pole position to Sainz on Saturday afternoon, but as he has done so often on a Sunday, he put it all together on a race day to take the win. He bided his time before pouncing on Sainz to take the victory and the lead, and once he did, there was no looking back on his way to another commanding victory. Alex Albon is currently third position in the power rankings with a score of 9.0. He finished the race in 7th position, but once again, absolutely phenomenal from Alex Albon. It was another outstanding weekend for Albon and Williams, with the tie racer once again showing off his speed, extracting the maximum performance of his FW45, as well as later demonstrating his splendid defensive abilities to finish 7th. Once again, the minute Williams put their car on the ground, they and Albon looked quick. So much so that he was a little bit disappointed to qualify in 6th, but a huge shift on Sunday, which saw him hold off Lando Norris in the final stint, netted him P7 as he continues to mix it at the sharp end of the field. Once again, super impressed by Alex Albon this season. He has really had a great season so far, really outperforming that Williams and dragging it really high up the grid. In 4th position is George Russell with a score of 8.2. He finished the race in 5th positions, as any concerns regarding George Russell's form have eased since we returned from the summer break, as the Mercedes driver seems to have found the level of performance that caused so many to quickly earmark him as a future world champion. Lost in the madness of Sunday is that Russell qualified 4th in a car that was 3rd fastest at best this weekend, and while he had hopes of getting a podium, his admirable yet lonely drive to 5th was the maximum he and Mercedes could have hoped for on Sunday. Yep, unfortunate for George Russell, but not too bad in terms of his race position finish on that Sunday afternoon. Sergio Perez is in 5th position. His race position was 2nd, and his score is 7.8. And it is now back-to-back second places for Sergio Perez, whose confidence will certainly be creeping back up after his post-summer break performance. But this weekend was yet again not without its difficult moments, as he crashed into the barrier in FP2. He would not have been happy to qualify 5th, but he did what he and his team would have hoped for on Sunday. That is, to overtake Russell and the 2 Ferraris to give Red Bull another 1-2 finish, thus giving the Mexican another trip to the rostrum. Liam Lawson, the rookie, is currently sitting 5th in the power rankings. Incredible for the rookie. His race finishing position was 11th. His score is 7.8. And speaking post-race, Lawson was a little bit disappointed to finish 11th out of the points, which meant he missed his first points tally of the season. But for a driver who admits he is still playing catch-up, that is far from a bad result, and one that instead should make him proud. He qualified 12th, just under 2/10 off the pace of his experienced teammate Yuki Tsunoda in 11th. Unfortunately, he did not have enough pace to get the points, finishing 6 seconds back of Valtteri Bottas in 10th. Perhaps not the best result he wanted, but still a commanding drive from the rookie. He currently sits in 5th position ahead of Charles Leclerc, who sits in 7th. Interesting that we don't have a 6th. Yeah, interesting. Charles Leclerc, he finished in 4th on Sunday. His current score is 7.6, and he admitted that a wrong setup direction put him on the back foot heading into qualifying. But after moving over to the setup being used by Sainz, we began to see the level of performance we come to expect from Leclerc as he qualified in 3rd. He did his best to make progress during the race, but Ferrari just did not have the pace to match the Red Bulls. He then had a brilliant battle with Carlos Sainz for 3rd, a contest that earned him top marks for entertainment alone. However, he could not make his way past his teammate and had to settle for a well-earned 4th position on Sunday. We have a few drivers tied for 8th position, that is Lando Norris. He finished in 8th on Sunday with a score of 7.4, as well as Valtteri Bottas with a score of 7.4. He also finished, he finished on Sunday in 10th position, as has been said. McLaren just did not have the performance to make a push at the top end of the field, as they struggled for pace, especially on the straights, with Norris, though, having his usual rapid self, looking to make the most out of the Monza weekend. He wound up 8th after being unable to get past the slippery Williams of Alex Albon. But with Singapore just around the corner, Norris's showing will be a source of comfort for McLaren to be hoping that they get, once again, another podium finish in Singapore. Valtteri Bottas's first top 10 finish of the season since Montreal, as the Finn used his strong tactics, which saw him start on the hard tyre before making the switch to mediums to finish in P10. At a track where Alfa Romeo did not expect to be at their strongest, Bottas made it into Q2 before qualifying 14th, extracting the maximum performance from his C43 to score a much needed point for his team. Lewis Hamilton then finishes up that top 10. He finished in 6th on Sunday in the race, and he has a power ranking score of 7.2. It was not Hamilton's cleanest nor strongest weekend, but he still showed mighty speed when it was needed. He mentioned that the car went away from him after FP1, and it showed as he could only qualify 8th on Sunday. Or on Saturday, sorry. He, like Bottas, made the decision to start on the hards, and it worked as he recovered to finish 6th. The only blemish against his name this weekend was his collision with Oscar Piastri, but he accepted responsibility for his part in the incident. So, to go over our top 10 in the power rankings: Max Verstappen P1, Fernando Alonso P2, Max Verstappen's season average of a 9.3, Fernando Alonso 8.1, Lewis Hamilton then is 3rd with a 7.9 average, Alex Albon is in 4th with a 7.8, Lando Norris 5th with a 7.5, George Russell 6th with 7.4 power ranking, Carlos Sainz in 7th with 7.0, he's moved up 2 places, Pierre Gasly is in 8th, tied with Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc, all sitting on a power ranking of 6.9 to finish up that top 10. Very interesting to see these power rankings. I think I'll be doing these a little bit more often, as they are very, very popular and are quite exciting there for all of you fans to watch along here. Mark just saying Singapore should be good for McLaren. I'm certainly hoping so, because I think their car should suit that track a lot more than last weekend out in Monza. Well, that is it though from me here today. Thank you very much for watching alongside me here on Forever Motorsports. I have been Reece. Please do be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, drop us a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. As well as do be sure to go and check out all of our other content that has been put up on this channel. There's a lot that has been put up this week. And there's a lot more coming throughout the rest of the season. Thank you very much though for watching. I've been Reece. Cheers.